What's up everybody, D-Man back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing a special news report on the MonsterVerse. I told you guys I was going to try and slowly start raising the production value around here, and I don't know if I'm going to keep it like this, but I got a brand new lighting setup, and I hope to eventually find the nice balance where it looks exactly how I want it. But it's nice to just start evolving things. Alright guys, it is time to do my favorite thing. Actually, I don't really like to do this much, which is why I don't do it often, but it's time to flex on you guys. In today's video, we are going to be doing a comprehensive history of the continuation of the MonsterVerse. This is the MonsterVerse post-Godzilla vs. Kong, and we're going to be talking about the development of that, which of course means I am going to be referencing information I was given along the way and revealing things that I knew, which I know often upsets people, so if it's going to upset you, I'm sorry. I like to keep things secret. Cheers. Let's jump right into it, guys. Now, the reason I'm making this video is because there was a really long-running narrative that the MonsterVerse was just going to come to a complete end with Godzilla vs. Kong in 2020. A lot of people were pointing to a Shinji Higuchi interview from G-Fest, which I have sources that tell me was mistranslated. In that interview, Shinji Higuchi states that Godzilla would go back to Toho in 2020 after Godzilla vs. Kong, and that's when discussions about if they were going to make a Shin Godzilla 2 or what Toho Godzilla movie they wanted to make would start. And a lot of people took that to mean that Godzilla is definitively out of the MonsterVerse in 2020. I know a lot of people in fact thought Godzilla was going to die in Godzilla vs. Kong and that the MonsterVerse would just end with that movie. I also know a lot of people were really worried that the MonsterVerse would continue but with Kong only. I'm here to cover the developmental history of how that is not true, even remotely. First of all, again, according to some sources of mine, that interview was mistranslated, and what it was trying to say was Toho's not going to talk about making another Godzilla movie until after Godzilla vs. Kong, because there's nothing else planned, nothing specific. And that's exactly what happened. Let's go way back in time to 2017. Now we're in the Kong Skull Island era. My friend from Toho Kingdom conducted an interview with Max Borenstein all the way back in the day. In this interview, Max Borenstein says that the MonsterVerse started to develop back during the edit of Godzilla 2014, and from there, Thomas Toll, the former chairman of Legendary, wanted to get Godzilla and Kong together. I guess Thomas Toll did have some good ideas. I have some bitterness built up against him about Akira Takarada, but other than that, I've got no beef with the guy. Borenstein says that the MonsterVerse would likely continue after Godzilla vs. Kong if people continued to support the MonsterVerse, which has been the narrative forever. That's always been what they've said. They have always said if people want to watch these movies, we're gonna keep doing more. So all we had to do was show support and check the box office numbers, and that was going to be our indication of if we were going to get more. A Michael Dougherty interview was held also with Toho Kingdom on May 28th, 2019. In this interview, Michael Dougherty says that he would love to do a Godzilla TV show exploring the ancient past of the MonsterVerse, diving deep into the Hollow Earth civilization that we see the temple of in Godzilla King of the Monsters. He stated that if Godzilla King of the Monsters was popular enough, Legendary would be open to discussing more projects. Now, of course, Godzilla King of the Monsters was a financial disappointment, although it did not bomb. It was a financial disappointment, which is probably why Michael Dougherty did not return to direct a MonsterVerse TV show. But in 2019, discussions of a MonsterVerse TV show did officially start. Following this Michael Dougherty interview, this is where things got a little complicated. There was two events that happened simultaneously. I released a series of 3 videos on the channel. You can go check them out if you want. They're a little frustrating to listen to, but you can go check them out. Titled Toho's Comments on the Future of Godzilla, The Future of the MonsterVerse, and Toho Confirms More Godzilla Anime. These were all touching upon interviews with Akito Takahashi that were done in 2019 during Comic-Con. I believe it was San Diego Comic-Con. At the same time, I had a meeting with Toho executives, and in that meeting, I was told a lot of information, which I have talked about before, but I'm gonna cover it here as well, which I think might upset people because people get upset when I bring this stuff up, but it happened. Around this time, I learned that Godzilla King of the Monsters didn't have surprising box office results, at least as far as Legendary and Toho were concerned. I don't know if that is good or bad, but that's just what I learned, is that they didn't think the results were surprising. I also learned at this time, which I have hinted at many times, but I've never outright said it until now, that Legendary and Toho would no longer be working independently. They would instead be co-producing MonsterVerse projects moving forward, which means Legendary's license with Godzilla was extended beyond Godzilla vs. Kong. I have tried to hint at that information. That's actually what makes those 3 videos so frustrating, is I'm not just saying it. I'm talking in every single way around saying that, rather than just just coming out and saying it. But at this time, I learned that Toho was actively developing concept art for a movie with Godzilla set in the MonsterVerse that takes place after Godzilla vs. Kong. So I knew that more projects were in development. So there you go. That's a lot of what I learned. I'm still not going to say it all. I did hear some titles of projects. These titles have never been revealed to the public, so I'm not going to say them. Also, I don't think they're happening, so I don't want to say it because then people would be like, what? Why are we not getting that? That's the way that movie development works. I actually talked to somebody else recently that told me that probably what happened is the two MonsterVerse projects I was informed of got fused into one project. And that's what Adam Wingard is working on right now. Breaking down what was in those Akito Takahashi interviews back in 2019, he says exactly what I was trying to tell people. Toho is no longer licensing Godzilla out to Legendary. Instead, they are investing in Legendary as creative partners. We have seen this come to fruition with the Monarch TV show where Toho is officially co-producing. Previously, Toho's involvement was only to make sure that they approved the use and designs of each characters, but moving forward they wanted creative input as well. This was around the start of the development of that Monarch TV show and the movie that I will keep discussing as the video goes on. Takahashi mentions in this interview the inclusion of Mechagodzilla in the MonsterVerse, which of course is what happens in Godzilla vs. Kong, but he also states that they were not hands-on with that project. They took the same approach for Godzilla vs. Kong that they took for the other projects, where they just licensed and approved designs and changes to the characters. Adam Wingard has also echoed this in his interviews post-Godzilla vs. Kong. Apparently, according to Akito Takahashi, Toho then gave Legendary the green light to continue using any of their characters, any Toho monsters they want. They are supportive and encouraging of directors creating new monsters, but they're also willing to lend the old monsters to them as well, with a fee. In a 2021 interview with Adam Wingard, he states that the cost per Toho monster is still insanely high, and so Legendary doesn't want to go overboard adding them in. That's why we don't see an Anguirus in the MonsterVerse yet, because Legendary doesn't want to license monsters like that. They're too expensive. If they're going to license a Toho monster, it has to be one that is going to get a lot of use, be used well, and be used purposefully, not just, hey look, it's Anguirus in the Hollow Earth. Following this interview, KDM posted on their Facebook page where they revealed a lot of information. They echoed the idea that Toho would be investing creatively and be involved in MonsterVerse projects hands-on post-Godzilla vs. Kong, indicating that the MonsterVerse would continue post-Godzilla vs. Kong. They stated that Warner Bros. Will no longer be co-investing, but will only be taking over sales and distribution. They talk about how Toho gave the green light to more kaiju, and the decision to use more Toho monsters is up to the creative team at Legendary, the producer, and the directors, but they still would have to pay. And then finally, they revealed that a Monarch TV show was in development, and that TV show would feature new monsters. Now we're done with 2019, so there's a lot of evidence that the MonsterVerse would continue already. Jumping forward a full year to 2021, because the world kind of got put on pause for a little bit, I don't know if you noticed, but jumping forward to January 2021, Netflix and Legendary announced a collaboration project, a Kong anime about Skull Island set in the MonsterVerse. We still don't really know much about that, do we? But it is coming, it is real. There was a coast-to-coast interview with Adam Wingard held in March of 2021. In it, Wingard says that while working on Godzilla vs. Kong, he was inspired to continue making kaiju movies. He says that by making Godzilla vs. Kong, it taught him a lot of lessons he needed to learn in order to go on to make much better monster movies down the line. He says that if Godzilla vs. Kong's a success, he would likely come back to do another MonsterVerse movie. It was a success and he is back. Wingard says that securing the spot as the highest pandemic film, having a big Chinese play, and having HBO Max numbers go up would be a great metric for Warner Bros. To want to continue the MonsterVerse. Literally all of those things happened. They secured the #1 spot of the pandemic film, at least when it came out. It held on to that spot pretty tightly. It wound up being in the top 10 of the box office for the year globally. It had a big Chinese play, and it was one of the only movies to successfully boost HBO Max subscriptions and viewership. Jumping forward to the weekend after March 31st, the release for Godzilla vs. Kong, this is the first weekend of April, Josh Grode, the CEO of Legendary, spoke upon Godzilla vs. Kong's opening numbers. In his direct quote, he states, "We have a number of ideas for more movies." There's the CEO of Legendary telling you that they're working on more. Following this, on April 4th, Continue the MonsterVerse started trending. It was a massive push in the fandom and had a wide reach well outside the fandom. In fact, that reach was so wide that Legendary responded to it. The fact that Legendary would come out to acknowledge this hashtag when they don't acknowledge other hashtags, I think was very, very telling. That was a big victory right there. Next, we have the massive drop on April 27th, 2021. This was when The Hollywood Reporter ran an article stating that because of the success of Godzilla vs. Kong, Legendary was in active development on a new project they called Son of Kong. I was later able to confirm in June of 2021 that Son of Kong was in development before Godzilla vs. Kong came out. That was the active title for the movie while it was being developed, and that they were still in development into the summer of 2021. As you can see, see here the date is Wednesday, June 2nd. The year is 2021. The Son of Kong rumors are true. That is a working title for the film. I know that they've been working on it for a while, and I know that it's official. Whenever they officially announce it, as in Warner Bros. And Legendary, then you'll see this. I have a feeling that it's probably not going to be the biological Son of Kong. Again, like I said, from what I've heard from one of my sources, what might have happened is the idea I heard about in 2019 got fused with this Son of Kong idea into what is now being called under the working title Godzilla and Kong. Was Son of Kong going to be the real title? Probably not, no. Probably the movie that I heard about, that wasn't the real title either. We still don't know what the official title for the movie is going to be, so who knows? But as I stated in that very somber little clip I recorded, I don't think that the Son of Kong is going to be the biological son of Kong. I think it will be an adopted son. And I still do think that they're going to follow up on that. I don't think that's just going to go away. I do think Kong is going to meet more of his family in the Hollow Earth, and that we're going to see him interact with more of his kind and eventually have a kid, whether that means adopting him or not in this new movie. I also know that Max Borenstein wants Kong dead, pitched it for Godzilla vs. Kong, and again pitched it for this movie. I don't think Max Borenstein returned to write this movie. Maybe he did. But I know Adam Wingard shot the idea down once and made a very compelling argument why he won't do that, and I hope he sticks with that for the new movie. Following this, Son of Kong was trending on Twitter, and eventually Variety released an article about Son of Kong, which was much more comprehensive. In this Variety report, Adam Wingard talks about the next MonsterVerse movie directly. Again, The Hollywood Reporter broke the news. The internal title was being floated around called Son of Kong, and things became more official in April 2021 following the release of Godzilla vs. Kong. And here it was revealed following the release of Godzilla King of the Monsters, Legendary was thinking of ending the current version of the MonsterVerse until Godzilla vs. Kong's release. The success of that film made them confident that they should ramp things back up and continue with their original plans. They want to produce multiple new projects, which they are. They're producing at least 3. Wingard was very involved in the development of the Hollow Earth in Godzilla vs. Kong, and this is a space he wants to explore in more movies. This would also make Wingard the first returning director to the MonsterVerse. Now we jump to August 2021, where we have an interview with Max Borenstein, and in this interview, Max Borenstein also teases that more MonsterVerse projects are coming. He confirms Legendary was in talks for a new movie and says they have a great handle on where things are going, and he was very excited to be potentially involved again. He says with the success of Godzilla vs. Kong, there will be new, interesting installments coming. He also says that Godzilla vs. Kong succeeded because it was so fun and joyful, hinting that that could be the future of the theatrical MonsterVerse installments. In a second interview held in August 2021, Max Borenstein teased the idea that the MonsterVerse might be moving away from human characters. He says that Legendary is currently entering the next phase of the MonsterVerse, phase 2 has begun, and that he, as well as some of the other people working there, would love to try and make a movie with limited human characters, as limited as possible. This would allow more time to flesh out the kaiju. Adam Wingard has echoed this, saying that he dreams of a movie with 30% humans and 70% monsters, while me and many other people view this as a recipe for disaster, as the human characters are vital to provide emotion and perspective and scale to the monsters. There really isn't a monster without a scale to put it next to. Many people are on board with this idea. I ran a poll on the channel back in December of 2022 and asked people how they felt about this idea of a MonsterVerse movie with no humans, and the results quite shocked me. 23% of people said they loved the idea of a movie with no human characters at all, 100% about the Titans, probably a movie in ancient Earth. That means 23% of people don't know how to tell good stories. I'm just insulting people now. 58% of people said that they wanted to see a movie with 30% humans and 70% monsters. I could not believe that. For a feature-length movie, you're gonna have 2 hours worth of what? 16% of people agreed with me that we need the humans for scale and they have already found the perfect balance, and only 2% of people said that the humans need more screen time and the kaiju need to have less involvement. Oh my god. Those results are shocking. And they are not reflected by the general public. Let me point out that maybe a fandom wish and fans might go, see, that's what everybody's asking for. No, that's what fans are asking for. The general public is not asking for that, and I don't think a movie like that would do well in the general public. And don't use Avatar or Planet of the Apes as an example, because those guys can talk. There's a big difference. All right, this brings us to November 3rd, 2021. On November 3rd, 2021, my friend Chris over at Toho Kingdom interviewed Chris Mowry, the creative manager at Toho, and Laura Cohan, the managing managing director licensing of Toho International, during the screening of Godzilla 1954 at the Alamo Drafthouse. In this interview, they stated that Godzilla wasn't going anywhere anytime soon, and between the MonsterVerse, comics, and Toho films, there will be a lot of Godzilla to go around. Chris Mowry also says that the MonsterVerse is making way too much money, and so Toho has no need to end it. Now we have entered the final steps. The confirmation. Not only was the Skull Island anime just truthfully confirmation that the MonsterVerse was going to continue, but we have official confirmation that Godzilla will be back. A lot of people swept that one under the rug and were like, they're just going to spit out one anime and we'll never acknowledge it, and it's going to disappear after a month, and that'll be that. But here we have official news that a live-action Godzilla project is coming. Legendary began development in January 2022 on a new TV show centered around Monarch that will be airing on Apple TV+. This TV show will star Godzilla and the Titans. I linked a very good Deadline article down below that you can go check out, where they talk about how Legendary is developing Monarch alongside the new MonsterVerse film, so there will be more MonsterVerse films as well. Because then I saw a lot of people go, well, if Godzilla goes to streaming, he will never get off, and that will be that. There will never be any more theatrical MonsterVerse Godzilla. And immediately afterward, they were proven wrong, because in March 2022, Variety announced that the next MonsterVerse film was officially in production. This new MonsterVerse movie is being produced by Legendary, Warner Bros. And Toho, and it is being helmed by Adam Wingard, who is back as the director. This is a Kong-centric film starring Godzilla and will be hitting theaters in 2024. It was filmed in 2022 over a 5-month-ish period, and the bulk of production was done in Australia. Also in that somber clip of me talking about Godzilla, I mentioned that they were working on this movie as well, a Godzilla movie that probably had Kong in it. Legendary still does have the rights to Godzilla post-Godzilla vs. Kong. They do plan on making a third movie with Godzilla. I would bet that Kong would probably make an appearance, but I think moving on, they're probably going to do a movie-by-movie basis with Godzilla. So every time a Godzilla movie does well, Legendary and Toho will renegotiate the rights, and then it will just keep going. Godzilla's under contract for one final film, and Legendary plans on making that after they work on Kong first. They want to work on Kong first in the anime, and then they'll get to Godzilla. We've done it. The MonsterVerse has officially begun production on Phase 2. We won. We collectively won, and I'm very excited. I think there's going to be a lot of great MonsterVerse to come. I don't know how long it'll last, to be honest with you. In that really somber clip I recorded, I mentioned that Godzilla still has one final theatrical appearance that he can still make under contract. I think that means that they're going to be taking the movies one at a time. I don't think that means that there's going to be only one last movie, especially when they keep saying, like, we have entered the next phase. A phase isn't 2 TV shows and 1 movie and then it's over. So I definitely think we're going to be getting more MonsterVerse to come. I don't think Godzilla's going anywhere. I don't think Kong's going anywhere, at least as long as the box office continues to be healthy. I think if this next Godzilla movie is not healthy, if the TV show doesn't get any buzz, we're probably only looking at 1 or 2 more movies. I think they'll probably just go, well, we were wrong. Nobody's really interested. Let's just do one final one and wrap it up. And if that's the case, that'll be really disappointing, but at least we have a temporary victory here. All right, guys, I will see you next time for a much more comprehensive breakdown of the development and production of the new MonsterVerse movie. And from here on out, I'll be continuing that just like the Monarch show. But that'll do it for this one. So I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons on Patreon. They are keeping the channel running, and I really appreciate their support. It really means a lot to me. If you want to support the Patreon, you can using the link in the description below, where you can get early access to content, access to the Discord community, and more. Thank you guys all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time for the next one. D-Man, out.